Welcome to Just John and April, the relationship podcast, your place for life, love, and laughs. In today's episode, the cancer story and word of the day.
All right.
Okay, how you doing, babe?
I'm doing well. How about
Good.
you?
I'm great.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm so excited because we're going on vacation.
Are
Hello,
we?
We're going. I got my vacation clothes on right now.
You do already? Wow.
Yeah.
I guess this is my vacation clothes too.
I'm so ready.
My coral golf shirt. I will be playing golf several times while we're gone.
So will I.
We will be playing golf several times while we're gone.
Okay. Yes, we will.
It's going to be
That's what
nice.
I meant to say.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. And I think it's going to be a good time away.
Much needed time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So remember, we're still in the middle of dealing with personal trauma and tragedy, a little series that we're dealing with. We talked about our accident story. We talked about our miscarriage. And now we want to talk a little bit about the cancer story.
We're just sharing our experience and how it affected our relationship.
Yes.
And how you can deal with these types of things when they come up because they're not expected.
Yeah.
They're not things that you plan.
Right. These are things that come out of nowhere. Things that you think you would be ready for when they come, but you realize when they come, there's no way to really plan for them, you know?
I guess I'll start
Okay.
with what happened.
Yes.
Several nights in the bed, John was scratching his ear, complaining about the itch, and it was just excessive.
This is back in 2010, right?
Right. At the time, John was 32, and
Wait. How old were you at the time?
I was 20.
Whatever, man.
Why you always got to be...
Why we got to be talking about my age but not yours? Is what I'm
Because
saying.
you were the one who we're talking about.
Okay.
This story is about you. Why do you have to bring up my age?
April was 31 at the time.
I mean, he always has to bring up the fact that we are not that far apart in age.
She was only 4 months younger than me at the time.
Look,
which
who
she still
cares?
is now.
How old do you look? That's always the thing. You have to look however you want to look.
You're saying I look like I'm way older than you.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just saying,
Okay. All right.
well,
I do.
maybe
Okay,
you do.
that's fine.
It's only because of the gray, babe.
Yes, you're right. So I was 32.
Okay. So John was 32 at the time. And I was like, let me just check. Let me just feel around your neck to see.
I don't know what made her do that.
Let me tell you what made me do this.
What?
Okay, I don't know if every woman does this, but I watch a lot of stuff.
Yes, you do.
So I'm always watching some kind of medical thing, medical this, and
or
reading
looking
about
up stuff online.
Or looking up stuff online. And so I've always known that, you look for lumps. You feel for lumps.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always done it, but I've never done that to him. So I decided, you know what, let me be his doctor right now and just feel around and see if I feel anything.
Instead of my nurse, as usual. Sorry.
You know what?
I'm sorry. I couldn't.
Anyway, so I felt a little lump. And I was like, this doesn't feel like a lymph node. It didn't feel squishy.
Yeah.
Which, again, with my reading and stuff, I always read that if it's hard, that's not a good sign.
Right.
So I start freaking out, though. I was like, you got to go see a doctor. This doesn't feel right. And he was like, babe, it's fine. It's fine. So, of course, I had to take matters in my own hands.
No, you didn't take matters in your own hands. You just kept saying something. So I called a guy who went to our church, who was a doctor.
That's true.
And I asked him if he would look at me, and he said, okay. The next day we're going to be at church. He said, I'll come, I'll bring my kit with me, and after church is over, he said, I'll check you out. So that's what he did. He took me back, he checked me out, and he had the same reaction as April. He said if it was soft and porous or whatever, he would think no big deal, but he felt like it was too hard to be something good. And so he said, I think you need to get a biopsy. And so I scheduled one. Well, April scheduled one. we scheduled a biopsy for the next week or something like that, somewhere in the near future.
Right. So when the doctor examined him, I remember him coming out of the room and he walked up to me and he quietly whispered, don't play with this. This is very serious. I mean, I don't
remember that.
Yes. It was like he didn't want to say that to you, but he said it to me.
Wow.
And he was like,
This is our doctor friend who went to the same church as us who said that.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And he said, this is serious. Don't play with this. He needs to go to a doctor immediately to get this examined.
Wow.
And I mean, my eyes started watering right away because, of course, I went to the worst thing it could be.
Right.
And so after that, we went to a doctor that he recommended, and that doctor actually examined him. And matter of fact, I was at school. Do you remember what happened?
Well,
he examined him, and they just did a biopsy.
They call it a fine needle aspiration. They just take a little bit of the tissue out, and then they look at it with some kind of instrument, I guess a microscope, but it's not extremely thorough. The first test is not. So that when they came out, well, before they did the test, they said that where the lump was, it was in my my parotid gland. You may not know what that is, but you have 4 of them. They're basically salivary glands. It was in my left parotid gland, and he said 80% of parotid gland tumors are benign. And so he said that before he even did the fine needle aspiration. Then when he was done, he did a quick look at it, and he said, it looks like it's benign.
So let me stop right here, because when he said that 80% is benign, I was like, oh, we good.
Yeah, we fine.
Yeah. He's going to be fine. There's no problem. 80%, there's no way he's in the 20%.
Right. Now, not only that, but after he was finished, pretty much saying confidently that he felt like it was benign after he looked at the tissue, he said, we do have another test that we do. We send this off. He said it's a much more in-depth test, and sometimes, he said, those tests come back different, with a different result from the test that we get here. He said, I need to tell you that just so that you know, but I don't think you have anything to worry about.
So he told him from the first test that it was benign.
Right.
So, of course, we're so excited, we go tell everybody.
Again.
It's benign. We didn't learn from the miscarriage. We're like, it's benign. Thank you, Jesus.
We're fine.
And let's see.
We're going to be fine. It's benign.
Right. So, like 2 days later, I was at school, and John was like, hey, I'm going to come over and have lunch with you. So he came, and while we were opening the food to eat, he got a call. And I mean, you can just tell how did the lady tell you? Because it was very...
Yeah, the lady actually says to me, hi, Mr. Nixon, this is such and such from the lab or whatever. And she said, remember how we told you that there was a possibility that the test results might be different? I said, yes, I remember that. She said, well, they were different. She said, it's actually cancerous. It's not benign. Now, my facial expression must have changed because I wasn't saying anything. I didn't respond with words, but immediately April dropped her fork and stopped eating. And the whole mood of the little lunch date we were having plummeted. And now it was like a somber thing as opposed to this wonderful, beautiful time together. I had to tell her what I just heard. And now it was like, whoa, what are we going to do?
We didn't even eat.
Yeah, I don't
we
remember
never
eating either.
finished our food. We really hadn't started good, so we never ate. Like I lost my appetite.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say it was crushing to hear that.
Yeah.
You know, I had 2 little ones at home. You know, Julie was 3, John was 5.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, I'm thinking, oh man, I'm about to be a widow with 2 little kids. I mean, you know, I cannot lose him, not only because I love him, but because of our family. So I'm just like torn. Yeah. He's torn. I mean, I could see it in his face because we were all just so excited about it being benign just 5 minutes before that call. You know, it was just like, how can emotions change that quickly? But they can. Like, it was crazy.
It was crazy.
So
we had to go to a few other things now because I had already gotten a consultation from a surgeon. And when I told the surgeon that it was no longer benign, that instead it was cancerous, he told me he was no longer comfortable doing the surgery.
Yeah. He was like, you know, because I may hit something and you end up paralyzed on that side of your face.
Here's what he said. He said that cancer does not respect the boundaries of the body. He said a tumor that is not cancerous is going to grow in a specific area and it's going to stay put. He said, but a cancerous tumor is going to go wherever it goes. And what he said was there are facial nerves that run through your parotid gland. So if the cancer had gone to where the facial nerves are, and in order to get the cancer out all the way, he may have to actually clip a facial nerve. What that would mean is I could have maybe some kind of facial paralysis or something like that. And so he said, what you need is a surgeon who knows how to do a nerve graft, somebody who can take a nerve from somewhere else and graft it in to make it so that you won't lose all the feeling in your face and you'll be able to talk still and all that kind of stuff. And so it was a much more complicated thing. So he recommended another guy, and I went to somebody totally different.
So I'm going to tell you, hearing that, it was like a brick was already placed on my chest.
Right. And now it's like a cinder block.
It was like cinder block. It was like the next thing. Yeah. And then it was like, I don't know, it was like piled up to where my chest was so heavy.
Yeah.
You know, and to see him going through that and hearing these things and just constantly, you know, you think you have hope with this doctor that was recommended, this surgeon that was so good, to say, sorry, I can't do this now.
When a really good surgeon all of a sudden says, I'm not comfortable doing the surgery anymore.
Yeah.
That was like, whoa, what are we about to get into?
Right. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah.
So he recommended this other doctor. And
the other doctor was a great surgeon from all accounts.
Yeah.
But his bedside manner wasn't great.
Basically, he was House.
Have you seen House?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
and
was like that.
I love the show,
right. But the thing is, House gets results. You know,
he does. He gets results.
Here's the thing that our doctor friend told us, because we had some apprehension. You know, the guy that we went to initially to get the first consultation for surgery was someone who our doctor friend from church recommended.
Yeah.
So now that surgeon says he's not comfortable with it, and we got to go with this House guy, and neither one of us are comfortable because, you know, he's not like saying the right things. He's not coming off well. And so we go back to our doctor friend from church, and that guy says, listen, you don't want a guy who's going to make you feel good.
Right.
You want a guy who can get that cancer out.
Exactly.
And we said, okay.
We're like, what do we think? What are we doing?
Yeah.
He's highly recommended.
Yes, we're going with this guy.
We're going with this guy.
So he was great. He did an excellent job. But there was one little other thing that happened that was kind of a roller coaster again. So I went and had the cancer surgery. The surgery was successful, and it was great.
No, but this is the thing. I don't know if you remember this. The doctor told me that once they take it out, they could actually see that it isn't cancer. So here I am in the waiting room again.
He told you that?
Yes.
Wow. So he's saying even though the biopsy showed it was cancer, it's still possible that even after we take it out, we have more tissue now. We can test it even more. We'll know beyond a shadow of a doubt whether or not it was cancer, and it's possible it will not be.
So I'm like, oh, it ain't cancer. There's no way he's at 20%. I'm back to feeling like that.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So I'm like excited.
Oh, my goodness. He must have told you that, like, in the waiting room
he
while,
did. That's
while I
what
was
I'm saying.
under or
you
something.
were under.
Yeah,
I had already
left
you.
Okay.
You know, you were under. He
Wow.
came out and said to me, he said that to me and the family.
Yes. Wow.
So, I mean, I was excited. I was
Yes.
like, great.
Right.
That's probably going to be the results. It's
Yes.
actually benign and we don't
Yes.
realize
Right.
it. And he came back out after the surgery, and I will never forget. He stood in the middle, basically, of the family. So we were surrounding him.
Yeah.
And he was standing in front of me, and he said, we got it out, and it is cancer. It definitely is cancer.
Okay.
And he just kept talking, and da-da-da-da. And I was like, like I just went
Really?
into I mean, when I say the crying, like I could not hold myself.
Oh, my goodness.
Because, again, it was like I went back to
Yes.
having that hope.
Right.
To
and
then
losing it again.
Losing it
Yes.
again.
Yes.
And another cinder block was put on.
Yeah. Wow.
You know?
Well, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So here's another thing that happened. So after I'm done with the surgery, he says it was successful. He said, we think we got it all. He said, so much so that we don't think you're going to have radiation or chemo.
Yeah. So
I was like, oh, that's
we
great.
were, again, it was like, yes,
This is
thank
amazing.
you, Lord. We
Yeah.
don't have to have all that.
Yes.
You know, it just got out. He just has to heal.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So about 2 weeks later, they call me again. This time with another similar call. Mr. Nixon, we looked at your tissue under the microscope again, and it tested positive for margin. Now, what that means is that the cancer went all the way up to the edge of the tissue that they removed from me. Mm-hmm. So if the cancer was like concentrated in the middle of the tissue and was far away from the edge, then they would know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they definitely got it all, because it was a small cancer in the middle and they got all the part around it. Well, in this case, what they're saying was in some parts of the tissue, they could see cancer all the way up to the edge. So what they said was, it's possible that we didn't get it all. Maybe some of the cancer went past where your parotid gland was, so you have to have radiation. So now
again,
I'm like, what in the world?
Another cinder block.
Yes.
So I'm watching him as he's hearing this, and it's just hard for me because I know he's trying to be strong,
Right.
but I see in his eyes, because I know my husband,
Yeah.
and I see the feeling of helplessness
Yeah.
and the hurt and, also the physical pain he was going through at the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was hard. It was
Yeah.
hard to see that. And I actually did not know how to be there for him. This was the first time where I was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do because you didn't seem to need me. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah. You were very distant. And I think it's because you were in your own dealings with everything.
I will say the radiation was tough.
Yeah, it was.
What happened was it was 7 weeks of radiation, and I had to go 5 days a week. And you can't get a lot of radiation at once. Obviously, if you do, you get radiation poisoning. So they only expose you to maybe 20 seconds of radiation at a time, maybe something like that. And there was this big green machine that I would have to go to, and there was this special mask that they made for me, and I had to put my head in it, and it made it so that I could not move. I would go into this machine, and then they would say, stay still, and then they would do this thing. You'd hear this sound, and that was the radiation. You'd come out and go home. Well, the first couple of weeks it was fine because it takes a while for this radiation to build up in your system, and so you don't really feel that anything's happening. After about 2 weeks, though, I started to become fatigued, and so I would have to go to work and then go get this radiation, and then I have to go take a nap, and then I would go back to work, and then I go pick up the kids from school or whatever it is I have to do. So after a while, it was like it was physically draining. It was exhausting.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that kind of thing happening. Then it started to break my skin.
Right.
So now I'm like, after radiation, I'd be bleeding or something like that. It was tough, and
really
it was
bad.
cracked, and it was hurting. But I remember people giving me certain things. Like this one lady made this special ointment for me that was amazing. And people like that came to me and did things for me that helped in a way that I really needed, and it was nice. I actually don't remember my wife not being there for me. I remember it feeling great. I remember you being exactly what I needed.
I felt I was there for you.
Right.
I just didn't know if I was giving you what you needed because I've never seen. So if you know my husband, he's very active.
Right.
He has a lot of energy.
Right.
He is constantly moving.
Right.
And constantly going.
Yeah.
So to see him actually not going, not wanting to go, tired all the time, having not much facial expression, just sullen, just not wanting to be himself. It was really hard to see that.
Yeah.
So to watch your loved one go through something like that was difficult.
Yeah.
And the kids seeing him and me seeing the kids see him. That was really hard.
So that must have had a dramatic effect on our family dynamics then.
Definitely.
What did it do?
Well, I started taking you to radiation.
Yes.
It was during Christmas break, so I was taking you.
Okay.
And then when I had to go back to school, you had to take yourself. And it was a lot, because you started getting tired. It was hard. And so, we ended up having help, and people helped with the kids and picking them up so he didn't have to do that. But during that time, the family dynamics changed because I was doing it all.
Double duty.
And, of course, with the help of family coming in and out and some friends who really helped out a lot.
Church family was very helpful too.
Oh, yeah.
Remember them bringing
very
food
helpful.
and stuff like that.
Bringing food and everything. I think that, again, to watch him not be him. It's really hard for you to see your spouse not be themselves because of an illness. And so it was really hard to watch John not be able to get up and go, not even want to, and so, when I want to talk, he can't because he's sleeping. When I wanted to, interact with him to see, how you're doing, he really did not have the energy to really interact with me or the kids.
Right.
So that was very difficult.
Yeah.
And to watch him going through that, was hard because it was hard to see him trying to figure that out for himself. How can I get through this? And I felt you were depressed. but I couldn't tell because
I was definitely depressed.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen you, even with the accident, you were not like that.
Yeah, that's true.
It was a different kind of thing.
Yeah, I felt
and
different.
That was hard to see you in that way.
I felt different in that one than I ever felt before too. I still remember a sort of heartbreaking moment with Julia when she came into the room and she asked, "Is Daddy broking?"
Yeah, it was so cute.
Broking.
She was like, "Is Daddy broking?" And I was like, "Oh."
So I mean that was tough,
yeah.
but I think a lot of people were there for us, and it made a difference. Mm-hmm. I think that you were very attentive to me during that time, and you were actually giving me what I needed, even though it may not have felt like it. I think because what you were giving me wasn't just returning me to my normal self, and that's probably what made you think it wasn't working, but it was. It was what I needed at the time, and I think it was good. Now, the other thing that I think was helpful for us is that the other traumas that we had been through. Remember, we had been through the accident already. We had been through the miscarriage, and those things could have separated us, could have broken us apart, but they brought us closer together. Mm-hmm. I think those things helped us to cope with this. I think those are previous things that let us know that this is a temporary thing, that this will pass.
Yes.
You know?
Right. Like the other things
just like the other things did.
Yeah.
And even though it feels like it's really bad right now, it's going to be better.
That was definitely the hope.
Exactly. So that's what I think we should say to our viewers and listeners. If you're going through a difficult time like that right now, it will pass. Do not worry. It does not last forever. Hold on. Fight through that thing. It's going to get better. It's not going to always be this bad.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's hard to think about when you're in it.
Yeah.
But when you listen to other people's stories, I'm telling you, your story for someone else is so powerful because, again, once John got cancer, so many people came out saying, my husband had cancer, I had cancer, my child had cancer, my parent had cancer, and this is what we did to get through it. Here's something I used, here's something I read, you know. And so it was like, wow, you know, so many people go through things. Again, I'm saying it again.
Yeah.
And you don't even know you're not alone.
Yeah.
You know, there are other people who have been through that or going through that right now.
Yes.
And we can help each other.
And it feels like the feeling of not being alone is way more powerful than we realize.
Exactly.
There's when you're alone, when you're by yourself, when you feel like it's just you, it feels like you're in despair and there's no way you're going to be able to get through this. But the moment you find out that somebody else has been through it, it gives you hope immediately.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing.
Right.
So anyway, I'm glad we got through that. I'm glad things are back to normal now. I'm glad that I have a clean bill of health. So I've been cancer-free for over 5 years now. That's a wonderful thing. So I'm glad, you know, I'm staying healthy and doing what I can do, you know.
Yes.
So anyway.
It's definitely hard to see your loved one sick.
Yeah, it is.
It's a hard thing.
But you can get through it.
You can.
If you do it together.
Yeah.
So now it's time for our word of the day.
Okay, word of the day.
Word of the day today is...
expectancy.
Expectancy. Here's what it means. The state of thinking or hoping that something, especially something pleasant, will happen or be the case.
Wow.
Expectancy.
Yeah.
So it's the idea that really things won't always be like this. So if you're going through a difficult time right now, go through that time with a sense of expectancy. You're expecting that things are going to get better.
This too shall pass.
It will pass.
It will pass.
And you'll be surprised at how important that would be to help you in getting through it. How effectual that will be in helping you to get through that.
Now, I'm going to say this. If my husband were not to have made it through, and in some cases for others, pass away. I mean, we've had friends same age as my husband or a little older and passed away from the same thing. And I would say to them as well that this too shall pass.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it may take, and it is going to take longer.
Yeah.
But I do believe that there's always that hope that things will get better.
Yeah.
And if we keep that hope, I think that we can make it through the day.
Yeah. I do want to shout out our girl, Yvette. Yvette is Darnell's wife. My boy Darnell and I were roommates together in Greece. We went together for the summer there. Very close friend of mine. Ended up with cancer at the exact same time as I did. And he did pass away. So may he rest in peace. And I just want to shout out Yvette right now, who's still doing her thing, raising her kids.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? She is...
same situation.
Same exact situation. But I think her testimony would be similar. Even though she lost her husband in death, she has this sense of expectancy and things are going to get better.
She definitely has that spirit.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So we love you.
Yes.
And we miss Darnell. We miss him a lot.
We
so
do.
Anyway, we hope this helps you. We hope this is a good thing for you. If you're going through right now, just live with expectancy. It's going to get better.
Yes. Yeah. We have that hope.
We have it. Yes.
Okay.
See you later.